central to Shia identity. Shias and Shia commemorations have been ISIL's biggest target. The Iraqi government is doing everything it can to protect those making the journey.
There is a clear-cut military engagement to protect pilgrims from any possible attack. I saw the district's commander, officers and soldiers deployed along the road leading to Scaffolding.
Iraqi government forces have been backed by Shia militias, many tied to Iran in the fight against ISIL. Iran has even launched airstrikes in Iraq. After initial denials, the Iranian government has acknowledged that it launched the attacks at the request of the Iraqi government. It's so sensitive, the Iraqi Ministry of Defense continues to deny Iranian air involvement.
If they are supporting this, there are some beneficial effects. Iran has clear security interests on its borders, protection of its borders, protection of its people. And ISIL is not simply a threat to the people of Iraq, the people of Syria, but the people of Iran as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are images and if there's involvement in the air, the way there is clear involvement of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps personnel on the ground.
In Diyala province, where some of the fiercest fighting has taken place, some Sunni officials say they believe Iran and pro-Iranian Iraqi forces are using the battle as an excuse to move out large numbers of Sunnis.
The central government in Baghdad is totally silent. We fear of a foreign regional agenda to change Diyala demographically. We've met the Prime Minister and the security commander, but no positive steps have taken place on the ground.
Iraqi officials say when people have been ordered from their homes after military operations, it's because security forces need time to clear the area of explosives. Iran and Shia militias have always played a controversial role in Iraq. But Iraqi officials made clear that with weakened Iraqi security forces, they couldn't take on ISIL or secure Baghdad without them. It's left the Iraqi government treading a fine line between relying on Iran for help and maintaining its independence. Jane Araf, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
To Libya now, where it seems that the United Nations efforts to mediate talks between rival political groups are failing. Libya has two rival parliaments backed by powerful militias. Over the last couple of days, both sides have said that the other should stay away from UN-brokered talks on Tuesday. They've also laid out conditions that could put negotiations at risk. Typhoon Hagupit has now been downgraded to a tropical storm as it makes its way across the Philippines. But it did topple trees, cut power lines and cause flooding. The Philippines National Disaster Agency says at least 3 people have been killed. There's been so much rain that there's now a threat of landslides. Andrew Thomas has more from Batangas City.
Here at Batangas Port, a 2-hour drive south of Manila, the trucks are backed up. There's more than 100 outside the port area, a further 100 inside, and they've already been here for some 3 days because this port has been shut for that long in anticipation of the typhoon coming through, and uncertainty as to how big storm surges will be at sea, as well as the damage that could be done by the winds and the rain on land. So a frustrating time for the drivers here, a very disruptive time for the capital of the Philippines more broadly. Manila, a city of 12 million people, is very low-lying, and it's expected that once this heavy rain has sat on top of that city for a period of time, there could be serious problems of flooding. So most schools in Manila are shut on Monday. Most public offices are shut as well. Private businesses are being told that they can open, but they're being advised not to if they think there's any chance that their employees could be in any danger whatsoever. This storm is creeping its way across the Philippines. It hasn't been as destructive as was first feared. Certainly nothing like the destruction of Typhoon Haiyan, and the very low number of deaths is testament as well to the amount of preparation that was put in before the typhoon hit. It must be said, though, that as this storm creeps across, the big concern is the rainfall now, because even if the winds aren't as strong as anticipated, if lots and lots of rain falls in one spot, there is still the potential of landslides, and those, of course, can be very threatening to life. And it'll be more than 24 hours, possibly as much as 2 days, before this storm completely clears the Philippines.
In the United States, protests continue against police brutality. Grand jury decisions not to indict police officers for killing unarmed black men sparked outrage across the country. This was the scene in Philadelphia where protesters held a lie-in. And these are live.